Are schools inviting outside agencies to be a part of transition planning for a student? And what are the factors hindering meaningful participation of agencies in the transition IEP process? Do you have any suggestions here?
Are school districts inviting outside agencies? Well, that's a great question. The first thing I look at myself is, as I look at where this kid wants to go and what they want to do, as I look at where the kid is currently functioning in relationship to achieving that, the question I pose is, when this kid leaves the public school system and makes that next step in life, will they need any services, supports, programs, accommodations, assistance from anybody? Because if they do, then what we need to do is identify who those people are, who those agency service supports programs are, and get them into this IEP meeting prior to the kid exiting so that we have this plan for the next step, for the handoff, for the kid to move from school into the adult world. Now then, in order for schools to invite these outside agencies to come in to do this kind of coordinated planning, one of the things that's required and necessary is that the school people have to know who these agencies are. Are schools inviting representatives of outside agencies to IEP meetings to help us do this coordinated planning? In many instances, they're not. And this is on kids where we know this kid is going to need some kind of post-school service support program. Then the question is, well, why aren't schools inviting them to the IEP meetings to help us do that? I think it comes down to a couple reasons. One is, you can't invite somebody to the party unless you know who they are. So you have to know who these agencies are. So then what is required there is for school districts, for educators to learn about the adult service systems. What are the systems? How do these systems operate? What are the eligibility requirements? What kinds of service supports and programs can they provide? At what point in time do we need to get them involved? At what point in time do they want to be involved? So it's our responsibility to learn about their systems, to learn about what is out there, and make decisions about who needs to come in and at what point in time. And of course, that's done with the consent of the parent or the student who's reached the age of majority. In some instances, I'm not saying here in New Hampshire, but in other places, special education teachers have been told not to invite any outside agencies to IEP meetings, which is interesting. And the reason, I believe, based upon the feedback from the teachers and others that I've talked to, is that there is a misconception that if we invite an outside agency to come and sit in this IEP meeting and we develop this big picture coordinated plan and we put in this plan what it is that's going to happen and we say it's the responsibility of this other agency or like Vocational Rehabilitation or Independent Living Center or whatever, if we invite them, they come, we develop the plan, it goes in there, but then the fear is on the part of some school personnel is that if we put it there and these other agencies don't do it, fail to do it, then we're going to get stuck with having to do it and pay for it because it's here in this IEP. So there's a fear on the part of some that says, I'm going to get stuck with the bill because these other places, I don't trust them to follow through and provide and pay for what it is that they said they were going to do. So the best way to deal with that is just don't invite them, don't include them. Well, again, it goes back to the idea that if we're going to develop a comprehensive plan to help this kid achieve what they want to do, the only way it's going to work is if it's a coordinated effort. In other words, a one-sided plan that just says what the school will do only, because we don't invite outside agencies, has little chance of helping that kid achieve what it is that they want to do post-school. It'll never work, a one-sided plan. Secondly, people need to understand, educators need to understand that Congress anticipated this being a problem, anticipated that involving outside agencies and coming into schools and helping us develop these comprehensive coordinated plans might be an issue for some schools. And thus, back in 1990, when they passed the first mandate for transition, Congress put some provisions in the law to address this issue. And one of the provisions that they put in law was, and said that if another agency, other than the school, failed to provide the agreed upon transition services contained in the IEP, the school district shall, as soon as possible, reconvene the IEP team to identify alternative strategies. It did not say that the school district shall, as soon as possible, provide it and pay for it. It said the school shall, as soon as possible, bring that team together who developed this plan, look and see in this plan those things that now agency XYZ is not going to do. Are those still important? And if they are still important, are there any alternative strategies, different approaches, different funding streams, different ways of doing this? Our responsibility is to bring the team back together. It is not automatically to provide it and pay for it if it's not done. Also, under the comments section under IDEA of 1990, they also reiterated, Congress reiterated, and said that schools should not bear the cost of any transition service, which according to the IEP should be borne by another agency. So if you were to take a look at the example IEP format that I have, one of the things under that coordinated set of activities, I have a column there that talks about who's going to provide it and who's going to pay for it. And my belief is, as we're developing this coordinated comprehensive plan, we're going to put right out on the table who's going to provide what and who's going to pay for what. My belief is when you don't talk about who's going to provide and pay, and if something were to not happen, then by default, I believe it'll probably fall back on the schools. So the best way to deal with it is just right up front. Now, also, one of the suggestions by Congress and by what's in the rules and regulations is for school districts to sit down with these agencies and develop an interagency agreement that spells out how they're going to work together, spells out who is responsible for what, who's going to provide what, and who's going to pay for what. Because there's another little provision in the law that came out that said if another agency fails to provide the agreed upon transition services contained in the IEP, the school district can provide it and pay for it and then claim reimbursement or payment from that other agency. But that is only according to what's in that interagency agreement. So I strongly encourage school districts, as we begin to work with these other people and these other agencies, to sit down and spell out those agreements. How are we going to work together? Who's going to do what? Who's going to provide what? And who's going to pay for what?